Hello everyone and welcome to day 24 of the 30-day film challenge series that I've been doing here on the channel. And today's prompt is going to be a film that you wish you saw in theaters. So comment down below what your pick would be, but my pick is Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, because up until a month ago, I had never watched a single Lord of the Rings movies ever. Like my family was more of a Harry Potter family. Not that we were against Lord of the Rings, but it was just that it was never an option really. We were never really interested in watching those movies. The main reason why it took me so long to watch them, even though I'm a big film fan, was mainly because everybody kept on saying it. And it kind of been funny to be that one guy in the room that says, "Oh, I've never seen Lord of the Rings movie," and everybody would freak out in the room because that's what would happen all the time. But now that I've finally seen it, I can talk about it with you guys, and I'm not gonna know all the names of the places or the people as well as pretty much anybody else who's a fan of this series would be. So don't expect a huge analysis of these movies, but just my first initial reactions to these films. So I will be reviewing all three of them in this series that are all coming up pretty soon here. So let's just start off with Fellowship. So Fellowship of the Ring came out in 2001, and the basic premise of this movie is there's a ring that can rule them all, a ring that was forged in the fires of Mordor several years ago. I don't know how many years, but a long time ago, and the ring has been lost for so very long until Bilbo Baggins stumbled upon it and left it off to Frodo, who needs to then go on a journey, create a fellowship to eventually destroy the ring, to keep it from getting in the hands of Sauron the something. Sauron the something, the great, the powerful. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the names. I was doing really good there for a minute though, but this movie was really enjoyable for me. And I'm not going to completely rave about this movie because I was really set up to the Lord of the Rings movies as one of the greatest trilogies of all time. And since it's the point in my life where I'm 22 years old now watching this for the first time, I don't think all these movies are the greatest trilogy of all time. And I think Fellowship is actually my least favorite of the three, which I'll get into my negatives in a little bit in the video, but I really enjoyed this movie mainly because it was a very fun journey for the most part. For like 2 hours and 15 minutes of this movie, I was really on board with it. I think all the characters and the creation of the Fellowship itself, about like halfway through the movie, which I think it's exactly halfway through the movie, when they're all around in that room and they start the Fellowship. Frodo says that he's going to take the ring to Mordor, and then the other hobbits run in, which those other hobbits are the best. I love Pippin, and especially Samwise. He's my favorite character in all three of these movies. But that entire scene where they're forming the Fellowship was such a great moment in this movie, and I can really see how it's just a wonderful journey. And this movie, out of all three of them, it's the most fun and just lighthearted of all three of them, which sets up the characters very nicely, and it's an enjoyable journey with some really tense moments. The Caves of Moria is my favorite part of this movie by far. I didn't realize that the whole Gandalf "You shall not pass" thing was in the first movie of this trilogy. I thought that was the ending of the third movie. That's how off I was. I knew nothing about these movies, so it's fresh to see, to actually have some surprises after all these years. This movie still did surprise me. Where this movie faltered though is this movie is 3 hours long, and that's what I was worried about going into the movie, and I really felt it. After the Caves of Moria scene, after Gandalf fell and after it was all sad, I thought that was the end of the movie, and I was like, perfect, this movie is excellent. But then it went on for another like 45 minutes, and the whole thing with Cate Blanchett, like, I get that she was seeing the future and she was kind of showing Frodo his path of what it could potentially be, or what it could be if it's successful, or especially what it could be if it was a failure. And it was kind of another temptation of her where she was not even strong-willed enough to have the ring and not be tempted by its power. And so I get the purpose of that, but it was just so bizarre and weird. And there's some really old filmmaking techniques used in this movie that I'm just not used to anymore. Like I said, this movie came out in 2001, so there's a lot of slow motion, low frame rate in this movie, and it's just the low frame rate makes it so choppy. And I get it's a stylistic thing and it's supposed to get you in the headspace of the characters, but it really grinded on me for quite a bit in this movie because they overused it quite a bit. Peter Jackson loves his low frame rate slow motion, but that's something I can get over with. But then the whole fight in the forest at the end of the movie, although great action with Sean Bean, and it was very impactful when he does fall, because he does die in every movie he's ever in ever. And so I guess that fight in the forest was very well done, but it just never reached the climactic heights of the Caves of Moria scene with the troll. The troll scene was the only thing I've actually seen beforehand of these movies. I saw in edits of them fighting the troll with lightsabers, and it's the greatest edit ever. You can look it up on YouTube. but that scene was incredible. And then the giant fire monster, like I said, I don't know the names of things, but this giant fire monster chasing after them in those huge pillars in these deep hallways was awesome. The visuals in this movie holds up extremely well, especially the in-camera perspective manipulation stuff that they do in this movie is brilliant. But some of the CGI at times looks kind of bad. But I mean, it came out in 2001. A lot of the visual effects is incredible. I think everything in the Caves of Moria looked incredible, and the practical effects with the orcs was very well done as well. So I think overall, I really did enjoy this movie. I think the last 45 minutes really did grind on me because it felt like the movie was ending, but then it didn't, and it just kept on going, and it didn't stop. And then the very end of it wasn't as fulfilling as the Caves of Moria. But for the most part, I really, really did enjoy this movie. But I especially do want to get into the cast because, like I said, this movie sets up all the characters. And first of all, Frodo is a wonderful character. I did watch the Hobbit movies as well, and I do think I like Bilbo Baggins more because it's played by Martin Freeman, and I love Martin Freeman, but he's really good in this movie, and this is the only film in which he is really bright-eyed and optimistic, because the other movies you really get to see how the ring really does take a toll on him throughout the 3 movies. But in this movie, he was the most plucky and the most bright-eyed and the most happy, which was fun to see. Once again, like I said, second viewing, it was a nice, refreshing view of seeing Frodo like that, because in the other 2 movies, he's really tough to be. He's not as likable in those movies because the ring is really taking a toll on him. So it was fresh watching this movie again to actually see Frodo as he was, rather than what he turns into before his full character arc by the end of Return of the King. So I will say that much about that. But Samwise Gamgee is my favorite character by far. I love Pippin and Merry. They are fantastic. All the hobbits are fantastic. Gandalf the Grey, of course, is awesome. He is very well played by Ian McKellen and everybody else in the cast. I will say one disappointment with the whole trilogy actually is Legolas. He doesn't really have any arc in this movie. And watching the Hobbit movies, he kind of had a little more of an arc in that one, because he was like, oh, I don't want to work with you dwarfs at all. And by the end of it, he was kind of buddy with the dwarfs. And in this movie, of course, he's having banter between him, Aragorn, and that one dwarf who I can't remember the name of. Yeah, some of the other characters in this whole fellowship was not as fleshed out, and that dwarf and Legolas are definitely 2 of them. But for the most part, like I said, I did very much enjoy this movie. So let me know what you guys think of Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. I will be reviewing The Two Towers and Return of the King later on in this 30-day film challenge series, so look forward to that, guys. So thanks, guys, for watching. I hope to see you all in my next video, and subscribe, leave a like, comment below, do all the things. See you in the next one.